Water shapes more than just our landscapes. It quietly decides how we live, build, grow, and hold on to our traditions. Hello and welcome. I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. Our lives, livelihoods, and much more depends on water. There's one thing that stood out to me while putting this episode together, and that was how people are quietly redesigning their lives around what water allows, restricts, and threatens. And they're doing it with a lot more courage and clarity than we acknowledge. In Kerala's backwaters, generations have depended on what the lake quietly offers each day. Along the Vembanad Lake, life has long revolved around the black clams. For generations, the lake has given this community their livelihood, but that relationship is now being tested and the answers aren't that simple. But we do know that what's at stake is a lot more than a single harvest.
Vembanad Lake is the beating heart of the cultural, social and economic life of the South Indian state of Kerala. For fisherfolk like 65-year-old Ambika, Vembanad holds the key to their livelihoods, specifically a dark-shelled mollusk known as the black clam found on the lake bed. Once the fishing boats reach their usual harvesting spots, their tools scrape the lake bed, shaking off mud and sand as the clams are pulled into the canoe. Nowadays, the catch is much smaller than in years past.
There has to be salinity in the water for the clams to breed. Without it, there's no yield. Earlier, saline water flowed in from the northern side, and we had a decent harvest.
Up to 70% of India's black clam come from these waters, harvested by thousands of fisherfolk living around the Mohamma fishing village. Over the past decade, they stood by helplessly as black clam harvests shrunk by more than a third. These changes in the Vembanad Lake can be traced to the Thanier Mukum Band, a 1.4 kilometer barrage about 20 minutes upstream that was meant to keep saline water from the sea in the northern half of the lake to promote extensive year-round rice cultivation. Aquaculture expert Dr. Padma Kumar says this can have unintended consequences.
When the area is cut off from the sea, with seawater is denied, the breeding requirement, environmental condition was not available. This has affected the natural breeding of the species.
Back at Mohamma village, environmental consultant Manija Murli is taking stock of the day's black clams. She worked with an NGO and is helping villagers adapt to the changes in the lake's saline balance. She believes the solution lies in actively controlling the fishing activity.
On the other side of the barrage where the salinity is right, we see many clams, including lots of baby clams in layers on the lake bed. So we started by collecting those baby clams with the help of villagers and clam fishers. Then we brought them to the southern side of the lake where the water is not saline and planted them in specific sections. We then treat this as a prohibited area for up to 3 to 6 months until the clams have grown properly.
Manija's work alongside thousands of fisherfolk like Ambika is helping locals reimagine the lake as a common resource. Instead of fishing until the nets turn up empty, the catch is sorted and only mature clams are processed further. Juvenile clams are then returned to the lake.
We should not overharvest juvenile clams. Why? It's important to understand that by leaving the baby clams undisturbed and letting them grow, we get much better returns when we harvest them at the right size. Small clams may fetch as little as 90 rupees, but choosing that quick return harms the resource.
Their efforts are already bearing fruits, and clam harvests are steadily rising. Fresh clams are always in demand with locals and tourists alike. The shells of black clam bring in additional income too. They are packed with calcium and are sold to industrial producers of construction materials like cement. For Manija, the involvement of locals has had knock-on effects for the whole region's ecological balance.
Because the local community is involved in our awareness activities, we see their fishing habits are changing. They no longer exploit the resources beyond the limit and have become more aware. Now, if anyone in their community or even outsiders resort to overfishing, the community speaks up and reports it to NGOs like ours, so that a solution can be found.
Improving clam harvest is just the first step. Their mission is to improve the overall biodiversity and sustainability of settlements around the lake. The villagers' next challenge is to mitigate the effects of tourism, farming and population growth in the region.
The lake doesn't have as many clams it used to have, but it is full of plastic waste. And I feel this pollution is also one of the reasons that's affecting clam breeding.
Teams of locals have started organizing cleanup trips to fight pollution in the lake. They regularly test the water to monitor the ratio of dissolved oxygen in the lake. However, activities of tourism operators, rice farmers, and households around the lake also have a major impact on its ecology. Dr. Padma Kumar says a plan that brings all these actors into line with the needs of Vembanad Lake is the need of the hour.
Enforce, I should say, crop calendar, restricting the crop season accordingly, and scientific operation of the barrage, and allow the flushing of the lake, because the lake is actually where the 5 rivers open, a lot of organic matter and the pollutants get accumulated. So the solution is to have a continuous flow of water to the sea.
The residents of Mohamma village continue to set out on their boats into the heart of Kerala's backwaters. They are no longer just fishermen or women, they have also become the guardians of its survival.
Now let's move to an entirely different coastline where an old harbour in the north of Germany is being rebuilt with the same instinct to adapt. In Bremen, the Weser River is entirely powering a new district. Let's see how they have found a cleaner way and built a model neighbourhood by working with their water.
The Überseeinsel in Bremen in northern Germany, once a bustling overseas port, is now one of Europe's largest construction sites. A model neighbourhood is taking shape. Can an urban district be built to run entirely on clean electricity and heat pumps? The concept comes from Klaus Meyer, who began with a single wind turbine. Today, his company WPD is Europe's largest wind farm operator. Now he's investing in new technology, large-scale heat pumps for a newly built district. Some buildings are already standing, and the architectural model shows what's planned.
Coming from the wind energy sector, I see heat differently. If we generate heat using electricity and heat pumps, it makes sense that we respond to the production conditions of solar and wind.
The green electricity for the district's heat pumps is sourced affordably from the power exchange market. They also draw water from the Weser River. River water is always warmer than the surrounding air, a clear advantage. Heat pump systems harness natural warmth from air, soil or water. The principle is always the same. A heat exchanger transfers this free heat to a refrigerant. Because the refrigerant has a very low boiling point, it evaporates. This vapour is compressed. That's the actual pumping. Its heat is then transferred to the heating system. If the water isn't warm enough, additional energy is needed. And to keep the cycle running, the pump itself requires electricity. This is what their river water heat pump looks like.
We heat our district using the Weser. With 4 two-bundle heat exchangers, we extract 3 degrees Celsius from the river water and transfer that heat to the pumps. That's how we create sustainable heat for the entire district.
These towers store hot water for the district. Eventually, they'll supply heating for bathrooms and radiators. This hotel is already connected. The former grain silos here were transformed into stylish rooms. They feature radiators powered by the heat pump, heating in winter, cooling in summer. The pump also supplies warm water for showers and can produce chilled water for cooling. We asked the hotel manager, how does the cost of river-sourced hot water compare to municipal heating?
We're definitely below the national average for district heating prices, which is great for us. And we're not dependent on fossil fuels. Thanks to the sustainable energy, we're more or less self-sufficient.
Many buildings in the old harbour area were once industrial halls, warehouses or offices. With a few modifications, they've become trendy spaces. But why is old concrete considered ecological?
From an energy perspective, it makes sense to reuse concrete, which is very energy intensive to produce. That's the idea behind architectural recycling. Where we still need concrete, though most of our buildings use wood, we use recycled concrete.
The Überseeinsel was once part of Bremen's overseas port, busy with ships and cargo. Today, Bremerhaven is the primary port. Around 1,600 apartments and 60,000 square metres of commercial space are now being built here. There is some social housing, but most of the apartments are high-end rental and owner-occupied units. The area includes an air source heat pump, an ice rink, and swimming pools with their own energy supply. Some of their waste heat is recycled into the existing heating system.
We've added fun elements too. We can show that an ice rink can be almost cost-neutral with heat pumps. It's the same with 2 swimming pools. These things wouldn't be possible here without heat pumps.
Plans include a bike garage, a school and campus, high-rises built with wood, and a glass office building with plants in front of every window. Each building is unique, but all are well insulated against heat and cold.
It's efficient because we now have extremely good building materials, even in glass. We use high-performance thermal insulation glazing with excellent insulation values.
These panes insulate almost as well as a brick wall. And the large-scale heat pumps for this district are already being rolled out commercially. Wind entrepreneur Klaus Meyer has his sights set on the next lucrative market, supplying hot water for entire residential neighbourhoods.
The scale of Bremen's experiment shows what technology can do with a river. But in Assam, this relationship with water is far older and far more personal. Along the Brahmaputra, the missing community has developed a way of life that shifts with every rise and fall of the river. Their stilt homes, their seasonal rhythms, and even their everyday choices come from generations of watching and understanding this water. What does it mean to live with a river that never stays still?
The Brahmaputra is more than just a river for the missing people of Assam. It's a lifeline, a teacher, and also a threat. For generations, they have adapted to its changing modes. The word missing itself translates to man of the water. Here, life begins early. Rajen Mili, a farmer from the missing community of the Biswanath district, sets out towards the Chapori, a riverine island. The Chapori provides a natural and abundant grazing area, supporting the cattle rearing of the missing community.
We are one of the few communities to live very close to the Brahmaputra. Because of erosion from the Brahmaputra, the river changes its way, and when it meanders to the settlement, then during floods, we dismantle and move our houses to a new place. It is almost impossible to survive here without changhar.
Changhar, or stilt houses, are a unique architecture of the missing community. They are made using bamboo. Because of bamboo's lightweight and flexibility, these elevated houses are flood resistant.
We need a lot of bamboo to make a changhar. From making the pillars, walls, the raised platform, to a false ceiling. Long grasses to make the roof. The fireplace is our main area. We eat here and we sit here in groups to discuss. We make promises before the fire as a sacred witness.
An average changhar can cost between 80,000 to 1 lakh rupees to be built. That is around 900 euros. The effectiveness of the changhar has been recognized by the government as well. The National Social Welfare Program to provide housing for populations below the poverty line also finances the building of changhars in flood-prone areas.
Floods make our land fertile, so farming feels rewarding. We grow flood-resistant paddy like aw and bao here, and also rear animals like cows, goats, chicken, and ducks. Fish is our staple. We missing people deeply rely on it.
With a population of over 680,000, the missing are one of the largest tribal communities in Assam and are vulnerable to climate change. Despite the increasing frequency of floods and erosion, they continue to rely on indigenous knowledge, especially in relation to the changhar.
When the flowing water becomes muddy and full of sand, it's a sign that there has been heavy rain in the hills and a flood may be on its way in a few days. When monsoons come, then you see the real benefits of changhar. We mark our houses to ensure the water level stays below it.
But the story of resilience isn't only told by men. For women of the missing community, living with the river brings its own daily challenges.
Sometimes the raised platform floods, so we build another one on top. For women, it's not always easy. Not everyone can take a boat to the river. I have been using a boat since I was 15.
Like Hunumati, many families depend on boats as much as their homes. For Rajain too, the canoe is as essential as the stilted house. Flood preparedness isn't just about housing. It's woven into the missing way of life. From storing food and learning to swim early to survive the Brahmaputra's powerful currents, to planting cycles, to the shared knowledge passed down through generations, this community has long practiced what the world now calls climate resilience.
Sanghar is emerging as one of the significant practices in climate change adaptation at the community level. During a disaster point of time, people are able to stay within their own houses instead of moving beyond their houses to the other communities.
For missing women and youth, the floods mean more than displacement. They disrupt education, health, and safety. For centuries, the missing people have lived not in defiance of the Brahmaputra, but in rhythm with it. The changar is not just a shelter, it is memory, knowledge, and resistance, stilted above the tides of change.
From flooded coastlines to dry regions, we ask yet another question. How do you grow food when water itself is limited? Some crops simply demand too many resources, but some vegetables like tomatoes can thrive with far less. In Tamil Nadu's Pachamalai Hills, some farmers have used this simple fact to completely transform their futures. Let's see how.
Since time immemorial, cassava has been a staple, along with the tapioca starch and its roots. But in Tamil Nadu's Pachamalai Mountains, many farmers have stopped growing the crop as it requires moderate irrigation and there is not enough rain. I made the switch 2 years ago. When I was farming tapioca, it was difficult to manage my household expenses. If your crop depends on rainfall, only you earn money when it rains, but your spending remains high whatever. We also have to rely on others for help, which adds to the cost. Until a few years ago, many farmers were forced to go to neighboring Kerala to find work, just to make ends meet. To support these tribal communities, the Tamil Nadu Tribal Welfare Department teamed up with the Indian Institute of Horticultural Research to launch the Anthony project. Through the program, farmers received free seeds, seedlings, and fertilizers, along with agricultural tools and machinery, and training in crop management. Under this scheme, we provide farmers with different seeds like okra, tomatoes, beans, and more. The main goal is to help farmers increase their income. By cultivating different vegetables, they can harvest something throughout the year, reducing the need to seek outside work. Initially, 125 farmers signed up for the government program, switching from a tapioca monoculture to growing a wide variety of crops, including beans, tomatoes, chilies, and mangoes. Palani and his wife joined the program a while ago. It has changed their lives. They haven't had to go to Kerala for a long time. Even if I work for 10 acres of land in Kerala, I'm still just a laborer there.
When we were working in Kerala, the farm owner would scold my husband for one thing or another. I really felt bad to see him being treated this way. But now, in our own place, with nearly 15 people working for him, I feel so proud and happy.
Palani's reputation is now firmly established. In September 2025, he won an award because his harvests outperformed most other farmers in the program. He's convinced that sustainable farming with multiple crops is key to a secure future, also for the next generation. When farmers don't get a good harvest, they can't even send their children to school. Many children go to government schools and leave when they are just 12. Our scheme teaches them about farming so they can provide for themselves later, without having to go to Kerala or elsewhere like we did. They can feel confident about their future. A future in Tamil Nadu. The prospects here aren't bad. Tapioca farming has shrunk by more than a third in this region over the past decade, replaced instead by many more vegetables, and more for the farmers to live on.
That's all for today's episode. As we saw across our stories today, water doesn't just move and flow through our environments. While it flows, it also shapes our realities and entire ways of life. And the fact that communities are finding different ways to adapt with its new realities is just another reminder of the fact that even small choices can really redefine our future. Are you seeing any such changes around you? Do let us know. We'd love to hear. And do not forget to follow us on our Instagram at DW_environment for more stories like this.
It works like a toilet, but it can power your house. This water swirling down the round basin is turning a small turbine, generating enough electricity for around 15 average European households. These teeny power plants avoid many of the problems of their larger cousins, massive construction projects that displace people and damage local wildlife. One Belgian company even coated blades in rubber to be more fish-friendly. The vortex area can also become its own habitat, supporting crustaceans and algae, even attracting small fish. So far, there are only around 35 of these in the world because they're better suited for small communities or mini-grids. Do you think there should be more?
Thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next week with more such stories. Until then, take care, goodbye, namaskar.